Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks very much for coming. So today I'd like to talk to you about hard choices. And if you have ever found yourself in a situation where you're having a hard time making, agonizing, hand-wringing, nerve-wracking decisions, then you're not alone. Because I myself just gone through a very lengthy odyssey of making a decision as to where I should do my PhD. And in the past 2 months, I've traveled to the US, and I visited 6 schools in 5 states, and I talked to the professors, and I talked to the students of the professors, and I talked to the people who know the students of the professors, and I joined all kinds of activities just to get to know the school, the people, and then I came back to Zurich, having no idea how to choose. And that freaked me out completely. So during this process, I've done quite a bit of research into decision making and how it works. And honestly, choosing an article about or a TED talk about decision making itself is a quite hard decision to make. So today I'd like to share with you a bit what I've learned, and hopefully that could be helpful for you as well. Okay. So first of all, I'd like to do a quick exercise with you, because after lunch, and I don't want to put all of you to sleep. So imagine, right, in a situation where you planned with your friends, a group of friends, to watch a movie tonight, but somehow all of them has some urgent issues to handle. So you've got to figure out what to do on your own tonight, right? You can go watch a movie, or go back to work, or sleep a bit early. It depends on you. So you have 3 seconds. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so from a scale 1 to 10, rate the difficulty of that decision. 1 means it doesn't matter, I can randomly pick one. 10 means it takes until tomorrow morning to make that decision. Okay, so who is from 1 to 5? Oh my God, all of you. Okay, then I would be the people who choose 6 to 10. So this is a typical good news, bad news situation. Okay, so the good news is that, well, the bad news for you guys is that you guys are not quite as a good decision maker as the other group, right, like me. But the good news is that you guys are pretty happy with the not so good decisions they've made. But for me and for the other group would be that, we're kind of good at making decisions, but we're not very satisfied with the decisions we've made. So maybe when I'm watching a movie, I might think, well, maybe there could have been a better activity. So before I go into how we can make a hard decision, I think it's better to understand the decision-making process first. And there are 3 aspects to it. Sorry. The first aspect would be the information, right? So we want to make an informed decision, so we want to gather information before we make it. And typically, this process can be characterized by a figure, and on the x-axis we have the amount of information you've gathered, and on the y-axis is the degree of confusion in our head. Okay, and this is typically an inverse bell curve. So as you are gathering more information, we're getting clearer about our decisions. But the catch here is that there's a tipping point, right? So meaning that there is a point where you are overwhelmed by the amount of information you've gathered. And that's also one of the reasons why when you go to a shop, you will have 3 to 4 items maximally for the same kind of produce, for example. And the second So this process, this thing is called the TMI paradox. And TMI, so too much information paradox. Okay. And the second aspect is the timing. And I'd like to think of it as archery, okay? So when you are shooting a target hundreds of meters away, right? Then if your hand shake a bit, right, then the arrow would be far away from the target. But if we were to, aim our targets at a very close distance, then it's much easier to at least get onto the target, right? So that's why it's typically a good decision it's a good option to make your decision, to delay your decision a bit if it's possible. But, right, there's always a but. So I always like this quote, I forgot from whom, but like our lives are as if we are joining dots on a scratch of paper, right? And we can only connect those dots, making sense of them backwards, but we have to leave out our lives forwards. So we can't put all our important decisions at the end of our lives, right? We have to make them at the very beginning or early on, where we don't know much, we don't have sufficient information yet. That's why we have the third aspect, or the third stage, which is, I like to call it regretting, right? Because it's so unpredictable, there are so many factors, and we ended up often regretting our choices, sometimes, at least for me. And this phase was characterized very concisely by former US Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld. He himself is was not very a good decision maker per se, and he's made some poor decisions, but I think he made the point. So there are only two factors for the future. One are the knowns, and the second are the unknowns. So the knowns, and if we put them in a matrix, which we've got on the left corner, to our lower left corner is so-called the known knowns. And these are the things very intuitive. So these are the things that we know, right? So for example, if I get good grades, I'm very happy, simple. And to the right, we have the known unknowns. So those are the things that we know that we don't know. So for example, we talked about last week about the stock market. We know that the market will drop from time to time, but I know that I don't know when it will drop or how hard it drops, right? And on the upper layer, we have something called the unknown knowns. So those are the things that we don't know that we know. So typically, these are the prejudices, these are the preferences, these are the hidden biases that we have. Although we typically don't pay attention to them, they play a very crucial, if not the most important role in our decision making sometimes. And lastly, we have the unknown unknowns. And those are the things that we don't know that we don't know, right? So typically, these are something that we couldn't even expect. So for example, I don't know that I couldn't expect that a pandemic could shut the whole world down, right? So that's why, it's so complicated because of this confusion matrix, if you like. And that's why it's very, very hard to make a good decision. And also hard decisions are hard not because we're stupid, right? And that's a good news. But the bad news here is that, well, it seems that we've gone back to the drawing board, and how can we make the hard decisions? So before going to the last point, I think there is only one last point I'd like to make before going to making the hard decisions, which is a common misconception about the decision-making process. So for example, I'd like to decide what I'm gonna have for tomorrow breakfast for tomorrow. And option one, I can have cereal and apple. Option two, I can have hot chocolate and donuts. And option one can provide all the nutrition I need and high fiber and so on, but it's not very tasty, to be honest. Option two, oh my God, I'm a sweet tooth, so what else could be better than kicking off my day with sugar, right? A hot chocolate and donuts, perfect. But it's not very good for our health. And honestly, I would highly recommend not having a so-called sugar surge in the morning at the start of your days. And but that's a separate TED talk. And so both have pros and cons. So neither of them is better than the other overall. A hard decision. for me at least. So what should we do? Well, as a scientist, as a computer scientist, what I would do, well, I will go with the science. I would do quantitative approach. I have some measure, I have some measurement or approaches, and I will just weigh them, put them on the scale to see which option is quantitatively better, right? That's a rational decision. And what else could I expect? Because there are only three possibilities. Either one is better than the other, or they are equally good, or one is worse than the other. And I've tried this. So for each of the offers, I've given all the different options a set of criteria, and then for each criterion, I will give a score, and the sum of the score will be the value of that offer, right? And I did so, but the result didn't add up to me. So I figured maybe I should have used a weighted sum instead of an arithmetic plain average. And I did so. So I assigned a weight to, I don't know, different criteria, the location, the financial support, the professors, the vibes of the, and so on, the campus. So, and it didn't work, trust me. So this is why they are not quantitatively comparable for hard decisions. For easy decisions, they are very easily comparable because one is definitely better than the other. But are they equally good? Well, so think of it. So for example, I say, well, you can have 2 apples for option 1, right? If you go with option 1. Or you can have 2 donuts for option 2 if you go with option 2. Would that necessarily make option 2 better than option 1? Not necessarily, right? So that's why in psychology, this doesn't work. And for hard choices specifically, we need a fourth relation to deal with our decisions. And in psychology, it's called on a par. So these 2 options are in the vicinity of each other, in the same neighborhood of value, but of very different, distinct values. And they are not directly comparable with each other. Well, at this point you might be skeptical, right? Because I've told you on how unpredictable this can be, and they are not comparable quantitatively, and how can we make that a hard decision that we're struggling with? At this point, I would say, instead of searching for answers out there, we should be looking for answers, reasons in here. And in other words, we need to create reasons and for ourselves. We need to conjure up for ourselves. And you might say, well, you are cheating, right? You are telling us to fool ourselves. It's not. It's rational, because our choices will not be supported by the answers given to us, but will be supported by the reasons created by us. For example, I could go with option 1. If I am a serial apple person, I am a healthy person, and I am going to live a healthy life for the rest of my life. And making such a long-term commitment is much easier than making a shorter one. So for example, I am going to honor my diet for this month. What happens next month? What happens 30 days afterwards? You need to make the decision again. That's why this is the beauty of making hard decisions. We can put our very selves behind our decisions. Here's where I stand. Here's who I am. And I can also go with option 2. Oops. If I am a hot chocolate donut person, I am a connoisseur of food, and I value food much more than anything else. I have only one life to lead. Then I want to enjoy my life, right? It's a bit unhealthy. It doesn't matter because I work out a lot. What's the matter of working out without tasting all the good food, right? So you see the beauty of it. You can really figure out who you really are, what do you really want. And if we were to live in a world full of easy choices that are very easily comparable with quantitative measures or external reasons, then we would be enslaved to reasons. And people who don't consciously make hard decisions are so-called drifters. So they drift through life without and let the world write their stories for them. And to exercise this normative power, we can figure out who we really are. What are the things that we value the most? So, hard choices are not a curse. They are precious gifts for us, opportunities for us to figure out who we really are, who we really want to be. And it's only through hard choices can we wholeheartedly become the kind of people that we are, the distinct individuals that we are, and we can appreciate the beauty of unique human conditions. So at this point, I still can't tell you how to make hard decisions because they are the gifts. They are your gifts, and they are your opportunities. But what I can do is to wish you, all of you, many, many difficult decisions to make in your life. Thank you very much.